Good morning, boys and girls. I am very sorry that I'm not able to be with you for a live lesson today, but I have prepared this lesson for you, and I would love to see you give it your all. Watch the video, practice your techniques, do the best you can, and then upload it to Flipgrid. There's a link in Google Classroom. It'll bring you directly to where you can show me your artwork using Flipgrid. And I will be looking at every single one, and I can't wait to see what you do today. So give it your all, do your very best, even though I'm not with you, and I can't wait to see them later.
So today's learning goal is I can create a value change by applying pressure to a pencil. The first question we need to ask is, what is value? Well, when you're talking about a color like blue, it's the lightness or darkness of a color. So as you can see, this woman is looking at 4 pictures of different shades of blue. The value gets lighter as you go to the left and darker as you go to the right. So when you're talking about paint, when you add white to a color like blue, it gets lighter and lighter. But when you're coloring like these children are, or like using a pencil like you are going to be today, you're going to change the amount of pressure you add to your pencil in order to make your pencil marks darker or lighter. So at this time, you'll need your art book and a pencil. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is the value scale right at the top of the page. This is where you're going to practice how much pressure you apply with your pencil. So we're going to start over at the left side, and as you can see, it's the darkest area of the value scale. So we need to press really hard with our pencil in order to make it as dark as possible. Now I tend to go back and forth quite a bit with my values, and sometimes I get to the very end and then I go all the way back to the beginning and start making it a little bit darker because I realized it wasn't dark enough. So that could happen. So each box, we're going to try to make a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter. It's going to be tricky. Some of them are going to look extremely similar, but we're going to keep at it and keep trying. Trying to get darker or lighter and lighter. I'm trying to match closely to the value scale above that I'm looking at. And you'll see me going backwards into the boxes that I already finished to touch them up a bit as I move forward. Sometimes I need to put several layers of shading on one box to make it the right shade. I can see my boxes lightening up, but this one is a little bit too light. I need to make it a little bit darker. So boys and girls, if you need to pause at any point to catch up, feel free to do that. You should be working right along with me. That's the easiest way to go about this lesson. So don't watch the whole video and then try to do it on your own. I would have your paper right in front of you with your pencil and pause it if you need time to work, and then play it. You can even replay it if you need to see it again. But work with me just as if I were in person right now. So the light end, it actually gets really tricky because you have to press so lightly, and it's actually harder than the darker end, I think. So now we're going to try to match these pumpkins. So we have to pay attention to the different values on the left pumpkin and try to make the right-hand pumpkin look the same. So the middle area already looks white, so we can leave that one alone. The second layer of pumpkin is kind of a medium tone. It's a medium value. It's not the lightest, it's not the darkest, it's kind of a medium. So I'm going to press a little bit harder, but not too hard. Now on the outer side of the pumpkin, I want it a little bit darker. So I'm going to press a little bit harder with my pencil than I did for the medium tone. You might need to erase and try again if it doesn't turn out quite right. That is okay. That's normal for that to happen. All right, once that pumpkin looks pretty much like the one on the left, I want you to try the next one. This one goes from light to dark around the edge. So notice how our light source is different on each of these pumpkins. It's coming from the side on this next one. On the first one, the light source must have been coming from the front because that's where it was the brightest. So I want you to really think about that and pay attention to that. It matters. So I'm trying to make this really, really light. My very first little tiny row there was, I think I just left that white. Now I'm gonna try to get darker and darker gradually. That word gradually is a good word to use because it is a gradual change from light to dark. It takes time to get there. It's not something that happens abruptly. You have to work at it. Happens step by step. It's a gradual change. A couple of my values are looking pretty similar right now. I'm going to try to lighten this one up a little bit. I'm going to use my eraser even to lighten it. That's looking a little closer, I think. Some of these values can be tricky because you don't want them to look exactly the same, but it's such a small difference that it can be difficult to make. I enjoy these darker ones. I think they're the easier ones to do because you just press really hard and there they are. Close. I think this could darken. And maybe all the layers could darken up a little bit. This is what I was saying before, how sometimes at the very end I go back and I just adjust it a little bit to make it closer to where I want it to be. I still think that one's a little bit too light. My darker side is not as dark as the one on the picture, but with the pencil that I'm using, I think it's about as close as I'm going to get it. So I'm gonna move on to the next pumpkin. Now this pumpkin, you're gonna decide how you want to shade it, but you can follow along with me if you'd like. So I'm gonna make my darkest right in the front. I'm doing the opposite of that first pumpkin that we made. This time I'm going to make my darkest in the front and then gradually get lighter to the back of the pumpkin. If you need to sharpen your pencil, this is probably a good time. When we're doing a lot of shading, you're using a lot of pencils, so there's a good chance you might need to sharpen it. I sharpened it right into the garbage. That's why I left the screen. So the next value gets a little bit dark. Or no, I'm sorry. A little bit lighter. Don't let me make that mistake. This time we're going from dark to light instead of light to dark. The first two pumpkins, we began with the lightest and we worked our way to make it dark. This time we're doing the opposite. We're starting with that darkest one and then lightening up. So when you're applying pressure to a pencil, it's all about how hard you're pressing. So the darkest one should be the hardest, and the lightest one you should hardly even be pushing down at all. All right, this pumpkin's a little different because we're looking at it from the top. We can actually see behind it a little bit. We can see the back of the pumpkin. So I'm gonna start with the lightest first, and I'm gonna gradually get darker each one, but I have to remember that I'm working my way behind. It's a little different. It's playing with our mind and our brain a little bit differently. We have to think about it a little different. So on each side, I'm gonna keep going back on each side. I can't forget about the other side because I want them to stay the same. I want it to be symmetrical. Every time on the right side I do a value, I want to put the same value over on the left side. Getting darker and darker, but not too dark yet because I'm not quite to the back. This one might be the trickiest pumpkin. I'm going to continue to work my way around the back of this pumpkin, making it darker and darker as I go. Pressing harder as I get to the back so that it'll be dark. Now back here, I need to start being careful of the stem. I don't want to accidentally color in the stem because I want it to stand out from the back of the pumpkin. And if I accidentally color it in, it'll all blend together and I won't even know there's a stem anymore. So I'm going to go around the stem, make it nice and dark back there, the most shadowy area of the pumpkin. And then we're getting close to being done. Have a little bit left here. Now you might notice that I'm going back into a few of these lines. Well, every place there's a line, if you've ever seen a real pumpkin, there's actually a little crease there. They're like little hills. And in each of those little hills, there's a valley, and where that happens, there could be a shadow. So I'm just going back into all those little lines, making a few extra shadows so that it looks more realistic. So friends, I hope you had fun making your shading pumpkins today. I would love to see how you did and hear if you have any questions for me. So head over to Flipgrid, which if you go back to Google Classroom where you clicked on this video, there's also a link for Flipgrid. So click on that, make me a video, show me your artwork, and tell me how it went. Tell me if it was hard to make. If you have any questions about what you did, I would love to hear it there. Have a wonderful day.